Hoi, we zijn hier in Santa Clara, Californië, hartje Silicon Valley, bij het Computer History Museum. En vandaag organiseert chipfabrikant Intel de Intel Research Day. Nou, Intel die onderzoekt natuurlijk allerlei nieuwe technologieën voor snellere en kleinere chips. Maar wat ze ook doen is onderzoek naar de toepassingen van hun technologie. En wij krijgen vandaag een voorproefje van wat ons over 5 of 6 jaar te wachten staat. Real-time visual mobile object recognition. Can you explain me what that is?
We're showing you an object recognition system that can use images captured from a camera to recognize objects in the real world. So Eric is pointing the camera at different objects on this desk, an eraser, a pizza, a mug.
How does this technology know that it's a pizza? You have to teach this?
That's right. So the way we teach the system to recognize different objects, like a pizza for example, is that we give it 10 or 20 pictures of the pizza from different angles. And from there, it learns how to recognize that pizza again.
And then once it knows it, you just aim a camera at it and it instantly, in real time?
In real time, on a small laptop, as fast as you can move the camera, it recognizes it.
And what's the application of this technology?
Well, we're first starting to mount this on robots, on domestic robots that drive around your house and assist you in your day-to-day activities. For example, you could ask your robot to fetch you your medication, and it would be able to know where your medication is by pointing its camera at different parts of your house. In the longer term, we're going to mount this on mobile devices like cell phones, and you're going to be able to point your cell phone at different objects in your environment and ask about those objects.
For example, I have a quarter in my pocket. Can you teach it to recognize that?
Well, so one of the problems with quarters is that it's a very shiny object. That means it's going to take a lot of pictures for us to train this quarter. So it's going to be a challenging object, but we're going to be able to do it.
If this works, you can keep the quarter.
Great, let's try it.
It's working.
It's working.
Congratulations, guys, you just won the lottery.
Yeah. I can keep this? Yes, you can keep it. Can I have a euro instead?
Wireless remote graphics rendering, what is that?
Okay, so in the future, if you have a small handheld device such as the UMPC, and you want to export the game to a remote display, this is sending the OpenGL commands to a 3D chip within the TV, and then the TV itself does the rendering of the display. So the image quality is reflected by on the larger screen rather than a small display on the UMPC. If you scale that up, it would look very bad. The bandwidth requirements are very low for this type of technique, around 20 megabits per second.
And how far in the future is this technology? When will we see this in the gaming consoles and handheld devices?
The hope is only a few years from now, but I can't predict that. So it all depends on whether there's a perceived demand for this in the marketplace.
But basically, the technology is already mature enough to...
Yeah, I would.
It's just a marketing question?
It is just a marketing question, and how much pull there is from the consumer space.
All right, thank you very much. Jason, dynamic physical rendering, what is it?
So we're trying to build materials that can change their shape under software control. That is, we'd like to build objects that reshape themselves when you reprogram them, or that potentially could be user interfaces.
But how should I visualize this? I have a material on my computer, I make a design, and it suddenly changes shape?
That's right. So you might have a vat of this stuff next to your desk, and you might be designing a 3D product, for instance, and press the equivalent of the print button, and it would appear out of the vat next to you. But unlike 3D printing, it would appear almost instantaneously. It would just form itself. You'd be able to interact with it and touch it. Now, under the covers, what's going on is you have a large number of very small pieces. And these pieces are probably somewhere between 1 millimeter across and 1/10 of a millimeter across.
But this sounds like science fiction. How far are we?
Indeed, it is sort of science fiction. And we've found as we've looked at this that 3 to 5 years we should be able to have thousands of these.
If I understand this correctly, it's sort of like I have all these grains of sand. These grains of sand are controlled by software and they shape themselves according to what I want.
That's right, that's right. Now, of course, you have to have a user interface that indicates what you want, and part of the art of building devices out of this will be building that user interface. You may be thinking about this like modeling clay, where you have to reshape it with your hands, but that's not what we're aiming at. We're aiming at having the programming that's running on board the processors in each one of these tiny modules working together to change its shape.
So each grain of sand, if I may call it that, contains a small chip, and that's all controlled by one interface that controls all those grains of sand.
Right, that's the likely way you'd structure that, I think. You'd have, say, maybe the capability of a 386 on each grain of sand, and then you'd have a very advanced multi-core processor helping coordinate all those interactions.
Wauw, dat was echt verbijsterend wat ons morgen allemaal te wachten staat. En het zou heel erg leuk zijn geweest als we het allemaal hebben kunnen laten zien, maar we laten gewoon een paar van de highlights zien. Het was echt indrukwekkend en interessant. Ik ben blij dat ik even op de Intel Research Day in Santa Clara ben geweest.